He's very calm when it comes to that finish. I bet you've been there and you've done it as well. To be able to get into, to be so quick and be able to calm yourself down and slow yourself down to be able to finish at time and pick the right finish. He's got that, and he perfected that as well. So he was just phenomenal. He's just amazing.
Listen, just finally, we are discussing this as we're partnered by Burger King and the icons of perfection. It's a silly question, but you never know. How could that game have been perfect? Could you have made it any better?
I could have scored a hat-trick as well.
I knew that was coming.
Greedy, that is. Greedy Heskey. That would be the only thing. That's the icing on top of the cake. Listen, thanks so much for coming on our show. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Just one last question from me. From that game, have you kept anything? The shirt, etc. Have you got it all?
Got the shirt, I'm sure I've got the boots somewhere.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Got the DVD.
Yeah. We all enjoy watching that as much as you do. Listen, thanks so much for coming. Have a lovely evening.
Cheers, Em.
We'll speak to you in a bit.
Take care, bye.
There you go. That's all thanks to our friends at Burger King. Order your Burger King delivery now.
Icons of perfection on TalkSport with the iconic Whopper from Burger King. The perfect lineup of delicious flame-grilled 100% British or Irish beef, fresh ingredients and a fluffier bun.
Still to come on our show. Yeah, thanks, Benny, for that. We'll be joined by British light heavyweight boxer Anthony Arp. But first, it's time for no Googling. We'll also have team news for you. Arsenal against Palace. That's coming up in about 10 minutes' time. Stick around for that. Aston Villa fullback Ian Maatson became the first Ian to score Premier League goals since 2010-11. Great question. Who was the last Ian before him to do so?
Well, I can only think of one Ian off the top of my head, and he was a left back.
Who did he play for?
Leeds.
No. Oh, Ian Hart, yeah. No, it's after that.
Oh, no, not Ian Selly, he's before.
Premier League goal, you won't get it. You don't associate them as a Premier League team.
I will get it then.
I don't think you will get it. Promise me you won't cheat.
Promise you.
So where, to end your kid's life?
So like his life.
Okay, I won't tell you. The answer to that, and we'll find out if the truth, that was your nickname, wasn't it? Lives up to his nickname right after this live and drive and TalkSport.
Drive on TalkSport with Motorpoint. Discover all of your favourite car brands, including BMW, Ford, Audi, Hyundai, and more. See online for details.
From the underworld of Guy Ritchie, Mobland.
Name's Conrad Harrigan, family man. And if you cross my family, well, you'd better pray.
The Paramount Plus original series.
We fake the right hands, break the wrong ones. Right now, I am in first gear. Would you like to see me shift to 6?
Starring Tom Hardy, Pierce Brosnan, and Helen Mirren.
We've got everyone where we want them.
Mobland. Stream exclusively on Paramount Plus. T's and C's apply. Subscription required. 18+.
At Morrison's, get 3 for £10 on selected fresh meat and fish with your More card. Mix and match on over 100 favourites, like Asian salt and peppered pork belly slices, hot honey chicken wings, salt and pepper king prawns, and smash burgers. That's all your fresh barbecue staples for less. Morrison's to shop at Morrison's. Majority of stores and online excludes Morrison's Daily More card app required. 18+. Selected lines 120 to 750 grams, £3.75 to £4.25 each.
Let me just throw this idea at you. You may have paid too much tax. If you've spent money on tools, travel or food for work, Rift can help work out what you're owed and get a refund bouncing back to you. In fact, on average, Rift get their customers £3 grand back. Not bad, eh? Let's get the ball rolling. Search Rift Tax Refunds. Come on, search Rift Tax Refunds today.
Have you bought a vehicle on finance between 2008 and 2020? Then you could be owed thousands in compensation. MyCarLoanClaims.co.uk can check to see if your dealer earned hidden commission. For more information on our no-win, no-fee service, text DRIVE to 60777. That's DRIVE to 60777. MyCarLoanClaims.co.uk is a trading style of a law co, an SRA regulated law firm.
And the winner of What Car's Best Plug-in Hybrid of the Year is the MG HS Plug-in Hybrid. With up to 75 miles of electric range and starting from just $31,995. It's an award-winning blend of style, efficiency and innovation. Plus, take a test drive and get £1,000 off when you purchase. The MG HS Plug-in Hybrid, leading the way in award-winning innovation. Book your test drive today at mg.co.uk. WLTP mileage may vary. T's and C's apply.
Oh, football. You've got to love it. The thrills, the spills, the absolute limbs. But in all the excitement, make sure you keep your feet on the ground with all the latest sporting news every weekday afternoon from 1 with Hawksby and Jacobs.
This is Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs.
And not forgetting all the latest form and odds with Paddy Power. Hawksby and Jacobs on TalkSport with Paddy Power. With Paddy's Super Sub, your bet now rolls over to the new player coming on. T's and C's and exclusions apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Evening, this is Amelia Beltrao. We've just heard from Donald Trump, who has once again raised the pressure on Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky to agree to a peace deal. On Truth Social, he says an agreement is very close, but has called on the man with no cards to play to get it done. It's after his vice president, J.D. Vance, said America will walk away from talks if the two sides don't agree on anything. Next, union officials say a deal to end the binge strikes in Birmingham could be in touching distance after further pay talks today. But the City Council's Deputy Chief Executive, Rishi Shuri, was asked why today's meeting was so short.
We talked about our United's position, we reiterated ours, and we're meeting again next week to continue the negotiations. It was very positive.
Well, the conciliation service, ACAS, has now been brought in to help. Rubbish has been piling up on the city streets for more than 6 weeks now. A paddleboarding company owner has been jailed for 10.5 years over the deaths of 4 people who drowned in a river in Wales in 2021. Nerys Lloyd apparently wasn't remotely qualified to lead the trip and put excitement over safety in hazardous conditions. And the Vatican's considering extending the hours for mourners to visit Pope Francis's open coffin. Queues to see him are currently 8 hours long as he lies in state.
Talk sport with Bostik. If you're looking for a professional grade sealant that offers technologically advanced performance, choose Bostik Pro Sealants.
Liverpool players are watching tonight's Premier League game together. The title's theirs if Arsenal lose. And Conor Benn tells TalkSport what's motivating him to move up 2 weight classes to fight Chris Eubank Jr. Matters more at 7.
This Saturday. More poverty across the country under a Labour government. Let's hear first from Paul Johnson, the outgoing director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies. What does all that extra borrowing mean for the Chancellor and for the rest of us?
It's not so much that it's 14 million more than was expected only a month ago when the Chancellor had a spring statement. It's more than more than 60 million pounds. More than the OBR expected last March. So when we went into the election last year, we were expecting to borrow less than 90 billion pounds. We've turned out we're borrowing more than 150 billion pounds. Now that's a very big increase. That's a problem because there's more debt and more interest. I mean, the Chancellor's fiscal rules get borrowing down over the next few years.
So we've got a lot more spending, which presumably means the Chancellor's sums at the time of the next budget are not going to add up as things are, unless she raises more taxes or borrows more money or cuts public spending quite dramatically.
The real problem is that, other things, as we know, have been happening in the economy and the world economy. The economy will be almost certainly slowing down this year. And I'll be very surprised if the Office of Budget Responsibility doesn't tell the Chancellor come the autumn budget that they expect growth over the next 3 years also to be considerably slower than the really quite optimistic picture they were painting just a month ago. Now, of course, things are changing very quickly in the economy, and maybe things will turn out better. But given what we know at the moment, and given actually how optimistic the OBR were a month or so ago, I think they're going to go to the Chancellor in the autumn and say, look, we think the economy's going to be slowing more than you thought. That probably means less in the way of tax revenue. That probably means, on top of the borrowing figures that we've just had, you're not going to be meeting your targets, and that means we're either going to have to cut spending or increase taxes. And given the spending review will have already happened by then, I would rather suspect the answer that the Chancellor will reach for is more taxes.
more taxes. And have you got any sense of where she could go for more taxes? Because the trouble is, she's been so explicit about what she isn't going to do, isn't going to touch income tax, isn't going to touch VAT. And she told my colleague, Natasha Clark, our political editor, only today that, you know, she'd done the tax bit. And yet she's going to have to do it again.
She's not for sure to do it again, but there is certainly a real chance that she'll have to do it again. Well, where she'll reach, given as you say, she's ruled out the relatively easy. I mean, on the big, she's ruled out the big taxes, and corporation tax, don't forget, has already gone up a lot under the last government. She's increased national insurance quite significantly. She could add a couple of years to the freezing income tax thresholds and allowances. Now, she said explicitly last autumn that she wasn't going to do that, but that's a fairly politically easy way of raising a pretty significant amount of money. It's not necessarily the best way of raising it. It hits everybody, including people on relatively low earnings. The other thing that slightly worries me is that you may remember in the run-up to the last budget, there's all sorts of speculation about how she might significantly cut the tax reliefs associated with pension savings. And actually, as a result, lots of people changed their behaviour. They took money out of their pensions because they thought they might lose their tax-free lump sums and so on. And then nothing happened. But she didn't say anything about it at all. I'd be very surprised if we don't get at least a lot more speculation and therefore a lot more people changing their behaviour because they don't know. I mean, we've got no idea.
Well, as you just heard, our very own political editor, Natasha Clark, actually spoke to the Chancellor earlier today, and she's with me in the studio now. Natasha, what did she tell you?
So, obviously, on the question that's on everybody's lips is how on earth are you going to cope with this downgrading of our economic forecast from the IMF? No real responsibility there. She basically said, not me, girl, this has nothing to do with me, it's all a global problem. And that's actually the opposite of what the IMF is saying. They are saying, of course, there is global problems. Of course, Donald Trump's tariffs are really hitting us hard. But specifically, they pointed to domestic factors, which, of course, you can't read as anything other than Rachel Reeves's budget from last year.
Utility bills and power bills and the rest of it.
Of course. And specifically, you know, you mentioned about with your conversation with Paul Johnson just then, you know, she said we did have to make a number of difficult decisions around welfare tax and spending to get a grip. We have taken those decisions. That sounds to me like she's trying to draw a line under the idea of raising taxes again, but we just do not know what that's going to look like. Of course, one thing, however, that it could offset that is a US trade deal. And I asked her whether she would be prepared to put things on the table for a US trade deal. She said she would be doing so, but not at any cost.
It's important that we get the right deal for Britain. That we don't rush into a deal, but we do the right deal in our British national interest. I recognise the huge challenges that businesses, including in the automotive sector, are facing at the moment. Is why, as a government, we announced more flexibilities for our car manufacturers on the shift to electric vehicles.
And of course, Andrew, one thing that also would be boosting growth, greater ties with the EU. And we know that Keir Starmer is hosting a summit of EU leaders in just a couple of weeks' time. I am told by lots of birdies that lots of things are going to be on the agenda for that, including defence. Yes, very sensitive. Defence stuff, but also EU ties in terms of that mobility scheme. I asked the Chancellor if she would be open to give Youth Mobility Scheme a hearing, and what is our future looking like for ties with the EU?
We are hosting a summit. There will be a summit between the UK and the EU in May, and that summit will be focused on reducing some of the trade barriers that exist between our countries. But we've got to bring down net migration, and we will bring down net migration. We made a clear manifesto commitment to bring down net migration and for no return to free movement within the European Union.
Well, that's many things, Natasha, but to your question, it is not a no.
She's not ruling it out.
She certainly isn't. Very, very interesting. Thanks so much for coming in and doing that interview beforehand. Now then, even those of us involved in the news business need to be distracted from time to time, led away to other happier places. I sometimes bury myself in novels, but writing a real gripper is very hard to do, and my next guest is one of the great masters of a contemporary page-turner. Anthony Horowitz has been hugely successful as a writer of young adult fiction, but he's also a practiced literary ventriloquist. He's written his own Sherlock Holmes novels and his own James Bond ones as well. His latest crime novel, The Marble Hall Murders, is part of a series. It's pretty fat, and I don't have the time to read this kind of thing, but once I picked it up, I couldn't stop.
So I sat down with Anthony a little earlier and I asked him how the heck he does it.
Well, I think the answer to that is by immersing yourself in it, by never losing sight of the plot, which for me is a little bit like a sort of a fast-flowing river into which I plunge. And from first page to last, all I'm trying to do is to keep my head above water, to avoid the boulders and the reeds on either side of this fast flow, and just to keep going and to take the reader's journey, in other words, to enjoy it fully.
And this is